Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hello, David. How are you at your Olympic best?
I am in a much better mood than I was earlier. That was one of the most dominating performances from Team Canada against a good team, because the Czechs aren't a terrible team.
No, not at all.
This is one of the great hockey nations. You know, they're not at the peak of their powers. They won the 1998 Olympics, as we all recall, beating Team Canada in the semifinal. And this is a great hockey nation. I think it was the Czech Republic in 1998 as well. It wasn't Czechoslovakia at that point either.
Not at that point, no. Yeah.
So, and they have some great players on that team, but it was a decisive victory. And just quickly give you the grade A shots in the game. The grade A shots were 21 for Team Canada, 13 for the Czechs, but the subset of 5 alarm shots, the most dangerous shots, were 9-4.
Yeah.
For Canada. Canada had really a lot of great chances. It was close in the first period. Most games are. But Canada did blow it wide open. And there was lots to like. Very little not to like. Have I even thought of my bad thing yet? Because we're going to do two good things.
Well, overall shots were 36-26. They were closer for about 40 minutes, and Canada really pulled away in the third period when they were extra dominant.
And I screwed up reading the grade A shots totals, Kurt. I'll do it again. It was 21-9 in grade A shots, 21-9 in grade A shots.
Okay.
And the subset of 5 alarm shots were 13-4.
Okay.
So I had so I got a couple things mixed up there.
That sounds even more plausible based on the game I watched.
Dominance. I thought 13 for the Czechs. I just was reading it anyway.
Before we get into it, my big thought was I have a hard time imagining any team at this tournament matching up against Canada's forwards. Like when you can roll out a fourth line like that, which is a first line on pretty much any other team in this tournament, that's pretty daunting.
Indeed. All right, Kurt, your good thing. 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers about the game. What is your good thing?
My good thing's Connor McDavid, and not just because this is the cult of hockey and we talk and write about the Oilers. But Connor McDavid was the best player on the ice. We all know that he has waited his entire life for this opportunity, and he arrived prepared and did not waste the opportunity. He was the best player on the ice. And he announced his presence, not with his stick or with his skates, but with his body. Heavy hit on the first shift of the game, which, as we found out later when the players got back to the bench, one of the players said to Tom Wilson, "Hey, good hit," and he said, "That wasn't me." that was McDavid.
I hadn't heard that. I was out this afternoon. I hadn't heard that, Kurt.
Yeah, I think it was Marchand said good hit, and Wilson said, "No, that was Davo. That wasn't me." And I really thought that helped set the tone for the game. I thought Canada was the faster, but also the more physical of the 2 teams. All the way through the night. After that first hit, which led to Macklin Celebrini's first chance of the night, then right after that, he drew Canada's first power play and had a power play chance on that power play. And then fed Sidney Crosby for a point-blank look on the same power play. On the 1-0, he established possession with the battle won in the O-zone, and then fed Makar back to the point with a backhand pass, the secondary assist on the 1-0, which was, of course, that lovely Celebrini deflection in front. A sneaky attempt early in the second period, just a terrific backhand shovel to Celebrini again. He fed Harley for a point shot. Had 2 shots at making it 3-0, but Dostal, who was quite good in this game for Czechia, stoned him both times on the original shot and on the rebound. And then on the power play, has there ever been a better power play unit on the face of this planet? An absolutely filthy pass across to McKinnon for the 4-0 on the power play. And then just the coup de grace, threaded a pass into Suzuki for the 5-0. He led all Canadian forwards with time on ice at 18:04. 6 shots led the Canadian club, involved in 14 scoring chances, 4, which led both teams, and was +2 at the end of the night. The best player on the planet looked like the best player on the planet.
Yeah. I had him involved in 13 of Canada's 21, major contribution to 13 of 21 grade A shots. Interestingly, Macklin Celebrini was in on, let me just see here, 6 grade A shots, all of them at even strength. McDavid was in on every one of them. And I thought that those two, right from the get-go, were fantastic together.
Yeah, and I thought Wilson was good on that wing, but I thought the real chemistry was between Celebrini and McDavid.
Yeah, it is. I like Wilson in that I think he does put the fear of God in other players. They're aware, they're afraid of him on the ice, and they should be, right? Because he could really hurt you, and he's out. He hits to hurt, and so he combined okay with those two guys, I'll say.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining about him being on the team. I see his value if they're going to call the hockey this way.
Me too.
I see, and the Team Canada management would know that they were going to call it this way. I see it, but I had hopes at the start of this tournament that I didn't think McDavid clicked really with anyone except for maybe Mark Stone a bit in the last tournament.
I agree.
Not even really super well with Stone. He just was lost in terms of finding a line mate that worked with him in the Four Nations, and he never looked right. Today he had his guy. He had Robin. Batman had his Robin. It just really worked well. I haven't seen much of Macklin Celebrini play before. I'm not that familiar with his game, but he is such a skilled hockey player. But in terms of I had this weird flashback, as I often do, watching modern day hockey players to old school players from when I was a kid. And it reminded me of Bobby Clarke in 1972 against the Russians.
Is that right?
The tenacity and the speed. Clarke at the top of his game when he was young was just on you fast and making fast plays
and dogged.
And that's the similarity. I mean, he doesn't have the nastiness of a Bobby Clarke, but
not many did.
He has the tenacity. He goes for it.
Yeah.
And his passing plays with McDavid were brilliant. They were fantastic.
And I'd like to point out, even though my good things about Connor McDavid, the one time when a Czechia player took some liberties with young Macklin Celebrini, in about a second and a half, Wilson and Parayko were right there, just like that, and oof, end of melee. It's like, don't touch our kid. I loved it.
Yeah, and to think, there's another young Canadian, Connor Bedard, who, he's not the same kind of player as Celebrini.
No.
I've heard Brian Lawton say he thinks, and he says he has for a few years thought Celebrini was a better player. I haven't seen enough of the two players to have a credible judgment on that, but man, was I impressed with Celebrini. He is just out of this world good. As for, is there any better power plays on earth, Kurt? We have been watching a pretty good one in Edmonton. And the only thing, I don't know if this power play lacks this, but it lacks Leon Draisaitl. I mean, it might lack, Reinhardt's a pretty damn good shooter, but I don't know if they have that one-timer guy quite the equal. Like, McKinnon can really shoot the puck as hard as anyone, but I don't know if they have that weapon, and it makes it kind of a unique power play, the Oilers. So the only one I would ever put up as close to this would be that.
Yeah, I see that point, and I hear what you're saying. It's just when you hear the play-by-play guy go Makar, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, it's like the defenders must be going, what next?
And this segues into my good thing, Kurt, which is Cale Makar. And I think we didn't see anywhere close to the best Cale Makar in the Four Nations. He was injured then.
And sick.
He was sick, and then he got injured, I think. Or maybe was he just sick? I can't recall.
I know he
Whatever
was
it
sick.
was. Yeah. Anyway, he was nowhere near what Cale Makar can be. He was just okay actually in the Four Nations. He wasn't great defensively, and he was good offensively, but he wasn't Cale Makar. Tonight he was Cale Makar. What a hockey player. What a weapon for Team Canada to have on their back, and both defensively and offensively. He just dominates the game when he's on the ice. He is a special hockey player, and he was in on 5 grade A shots, all of them at even strength. He just which didn't lead the team for a defenseman. Interestingly, I had Thomas Harley in on 7,
Right.
and Thomas
Harley had 2 assists.
He impressed the hell out of me tonight.
He had a good game.
He impressed the hell out of me at the last Four Nations, and I would have been bitching like hell about his inclusion on the team if not for that, over Bouchard. But I remember how he played. He is the exact kind of player who does well, I think, in international hockey. A highly skilled, high IQ hockey player.
And he and Doughty together were very good.
They got better as the game went on, and by the end, they were really good. And Doughty was, and again, both of us made the comment last time that we were both okay with Doughty on this team.
Yep.
Because of that, and we'll talk a little bit about Bouchard and Hyman in a moment, but I thought that Harley was fantastic. Makar was fantastic. Doughty was good. Like, he's a little slow on defense now and then, but he's still a really good player. Mm-hmm. And Theodore, I thought, was fine. And Taves Devin Taves is a good hockey player. So, but Makar, we're seeing the real thing, and that's going to make a big difference for Team Canada in this tournament as compared to the Four Nations when they struggled a bit.
Well, my point on Makar will be similar to the point I made on McDavid, where the first impact McDavid made on the game was a hit, right? Mm-hmm. The first impact Makar made in this game was a block shot in his own zone early on. And when you see elite players like that taking on those roles, I don't know what it says to you, but it says to me is that these guys mean business. Like, I thought they were all stone-faced right at the start of the game. I thought they are here to win. And when you see McDavid's first thing on ice being a big hit and Makar's first thing being a block shot that looked like it stung him, by the way, I was a little bit worried about that for a minute. But these guys are willing to lay it on the line. That's how bad they want to win. And as a fan of Team Canada, that makes me feel pretty good.
I'm not sure I want Cale Makar on the PK blocking shots, but there are other defensemen, but who can do that, I hope. But he's so good. The temptation's probably to play him a ton, right? Just keep playing him.
And he just played like 1851 tonight. Like, that's not all the players' ice time was throttled down. None of them were the least bit taxed. So
So it looks, Kurt, like the really good news is, I mean, to build on Makar being good, is they have 2 good pairings now. Like, I think the coaches now have it. They know they can count on Makar and Taves. They know they can count on Harley and Doughty. So the question is, who's going to be on that third pairing in, down the road in the big games? Like, who's that going to be? And I can't really. I think one of them will be Theodore because he's pretty solid with the puck, and I don't know who else it's going to be, but we'll see about that. Okay, what's your bad thing, Kurt?
We're going to not do 2 good things.
Oh, you want to do 2 good things?
You said we wanted to, so we
can.
can.
I thought you were going to sneak in an extra good thing.
I'll sneak in an extra good thing really quick, which is Craig Binnington. Because surely, with all due respect,
Craig Billington, Jordan Binnington.
I did say Craig Binnington,
but it's Jordan Binnington.
Yeah. So
okay.
So my point being that sorry, David, my computer just stuck here for just a second.
Let me just see if there's any glitching on our recording. There does not seem to be, Kurt. You're A-okay to go.
I am A-okay to go? Okay. Well, I think with all due respect to Bouchard and Hyman, I think the goaltending was the most debated thing on Team Canada. And not so much whether they brought the right guys or whether they were going to start the right guy. And I think a heck of a lot of debate around Binnington. Well, he answered his critics, and I thought he answered his critics loudly. Well, certainly Team Canada had the best chances on the night. Binnington came up big when he needed to come up big. 26 save shutout. And when John Cooper after the game was asked, when did you decide he was going to be your starting goaltender? His quote was about 365 days ago. Which of course was around the Four Nations, right? So in other words, this is a loyal coach. He knows that Binnington helped win that game for them. And so he went with his guy. And his guy paid his coach off handsomely with a win. Now, I'm not convinced that Binnington's going to go the rest of the way. I think, certainly somebody different's going to start against Switzerland. But hey, he went in and proved that his off season in St. Louis is his off season in St. Louis. But something happens to a Jordan Binnington when he puts on the maple leaf, because he was excellent tonight.
He did play well, Kurt. He had 9 grade A shots. He stopped them all, and the 4 or 5 alarmers. The only thing I would say is this: the one I still have a doubt about him, and it's this so there was 4 or 5 alarm shots in this game from Czechia. One of them was a deflection off Parayko, right in front of the net that Binnington got a pad on the power play. The 3 others were all outside shots where Binnington gave up a rebound, and they pounced on it, and almost they had their best chances to score of the game. So my question about him is the rebound control. It wasn't exceptional today, like 3 5-alarm chances off rebounds.
There was one rebound that stood out in my mind where he spit out the rebound and had to stop the resulting shot. One of those sticks out as, that was one he could have controlled better. So I buy that. The other thing on the other side of the frame was I thought he was splendid with the puck. Really handled the puck well, and I think that was one of the reasons Czechia's forecheck never really could get established. I'm not so sure about the foot speed of the Canadian defense. That's one of the things I still have some concerns about, even after that dominating performance today. They ain't a speedy bunch.
They are not.
No, but with Binnington back there and handles the puck so well, that's a difference maker, right? It really helps your defenseman get turned around and transition that split second quicker.
I had the same thought, Kurt, watching him. I thought, wow, so nice to see a goalie who really commands the puck, handles the puck so well,
really
controls the game confidently. Maybe if we saw him all the time, we'd see him make a few Mike Smith kind of mistakes. Because
inevitably,
really good
right?
with the puck too.
Yep.
But anyone who handles the puck a lot is going to make mistakes now and then. But it does help. It's a different kind of team, this team, because you don't generally need a goalie to win you the game. Team Canada hasn't in the past. Now, Team America, Team USA may be creeping up on them enough that that's going to need to happen one of these days. And it did need to happen in overtime of the Four Nations, and he did it. So, I have been skeptical of John Cooper's talk, the coach, of the bonding experience of the Four Nations, but I wasn't there, right? He was there. Yep. He saw it. He felt it. He lived it. He believes there's a special bond with the players who were there. And we'll see. I'm going to get into this in my number. I would point out that the young players who joined the team were spectacular, and they weren't there, a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So there's something to be said for that as well. But I'm okay with them. With Binnington's game was good. It was a good game. Yep. He certainly didn't take a step back in terms of being the full-time starting goalie on this team. We'll see how. Looks like Logan Thompson will be in net tomorrow, and we'll see how he does. Kurt, we had bad things now?
Bad things, yeah. There weren't many, because the whole club played well. Everybody scored a 5 or higher in my game grades, if people haven't had a chance to read them yet.
For sure.
Yeah, it's like no one was bad in this game. But the one bad thing that happened was the injury to Josh Morrissey. And it presents a very sticky situation for Team Canada that I think they could have avoided. He took a hard hit in the first period. And while I don't know that that's where the injury happened, I suspect it was. So he disappeared for a few shifts. He came back for a little while, and I thought, oh, good, he's back. I know the guys who work for the Winnipeg Jets that are really great on social media go, hey, he's back, he's back. But then like it was one shift, and then he was gone again. So
It's a good sign though that they come back at all. Like,
yes, I agree with that. Like if it's really serious, he's
not coming back.
The first announcement you get, he's done for the night, right?
Yes.
And I'm
He's being
100%
out.
yeah, and I'm 100% sure he won't play against Switzerland tomorrow because why would you chance it, right? But with him out of there, I don't think there's any question Josh Morrissey was one of Canada's 4 best defensemen.
I agree, Kurt.
Right. And with him out of there, your transition game, I think, takes a bit of a hit. And the transition from this Canadian defense, aside from Cale Makar, wasn't great in the first place because while Drew Doughty can still play for my team Canada, he ain't the Drew Doughty from 4 years ago. Right. So so
Hardy's pretty good at it though. Like again today, like he did show that, but you're right.
Not bad, right? But you know what he isn't is Evan Bouchard. And as you'll know, all along, when people were complaining about my bitching that Evan Bouchard wasn't on this team, my answer would be, look, I'm not saying he needs to be in your top 6, but he should be on your roster. So if one of your good puck-moving defensemen gets hurt, he's the guy that you can put in there. Well, here we are.
Yeah.
Right? Here we are. And I've said this before, I don't wish ill of any of these young men that made Team Canada. Anyone that's willing to pull on the maple leaf and play for Canada, I got time for. But this was a situation that you can foresee, and it would have been avoidable if Bouchard was on this roster.
I guess I just feel like they picked kind of 3 defensive defensemen, and one of them wasn't going to play. So, or maybe even 2 of them possibly weren't going to play much. So they picked Doughty, Parayko, and Sanheim. And they're all at this point slow, average skating NHLers at best.
Yes.
At best.
At best.
Even Doughty, that used to be a hallmark. He was so agile.
Yeah.
But
he can still get around okay, but he's not what he used to be. And why would he be? I mean, the guy's, what is he, 38? Like, yeah.
So they picked 3 of those guys. Why not just 2? Go with 2 and make sure on your bench, ready to go, is another really great puck mover. And then you're covered. And I think this was the argument no one necessarily expected Bouchard to start.
Oh.
As he came on in January, had such a great January, I was thinking he should start. But generally speaking, the argument was he should be one of the 8 in case Cale Makar gets hurt again. So you have someone to run your darn power play.
Yeah, your 7 and 8 should be one really good shutdown guy and one guy that's really good at transitioning the puck. That makes good sense, no?
Yeah, and I like Parayko's size out there.
Yeah,
like he is a big Bobby Clobber hockey player,
and he was decent tonight. Like he was solid, okay. Right?
Yeah, he's a defensive defenseman. He's a big guy, and he's tough, and he's big, and all that. And so if he and Bouchard had been like 7 and 8 on the team, like the 7th and 8th, like that would make some sense to me.
Then you feel good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but not to be, and so they're Theodore. Thank God they have Shea Theodore this year because he was out last year too. And that really hurt them.
And he was supposed to be the 7 tonight, but he ended up playing 15 minutes because Morrissey went out so early. So,
yeah, I don't know why he would have been the 7, but anyway, that's
you and me both, David. I think you and I think we're preaching one another. We're preaching to the choir here.
We have the same thought
on the defense. Yes, we do.
Yeah. I don't have much of a bad thing, Kurt, at all. But I am going to go just it's bad for these guys. So the 4 forwards who had the least amount of ice time, Reinhart 10:01, Horvat 9:54, Bennett 7:19, and Marchand 9:29. Interestingly, 3 of the 4 are Florida Panthers. I thought that was kind of funny because there's apparently, and I haven't seen them play, but there's apparently just an ugly, nasty, angry rivalry now between Tampa and Florida. So it's kind of funny that the 3 players on Team Canada, 3 of the 4 who got the least amount of ice time at forward, were all Florida Panthers. But I just think it's tough for those guys. They're all used to playing 10 minutes more a game. They're all fantastic hockey players, but and Horvat, Man, oh man, was that ever a goal? What? And Marchand assisted it. It was a
Yep.
great goal
Yeah,
where
great play
Marchand.
by Marchand on the wall, and then Horvat just like a shot out of a cannon right up the middle, hey, and a really high skill move to beat the goaltender at the end.
I mean, I've seen Bo Horvat well before with Vancouver. We've seen a lot of him, and
Yep.
I've seen him play some really great games. Um, was he ever moving?
Hmm.
And that's what you kind of want. Like if you're looking for a depth player who's going to step in and make a difference, like a guy who can skate like that. Like wow, what a Canada is blessed to have. If these are your if this is your depth line,
Yeah.
your four depth forwards, you are blessed to have them.
And
I
here's the
almost think it
funny
would be
thing.
better if they just sat someone. Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, here's the funny thing. Like, as you know, I live out on the West Coast. Horvat was never a big penalty killer for the Canucks.
Oh yeah.
Ever. Like he did a little bit of, but he was never a big part of the penalty killing unit out here on the coast. And here he is on one of the best teams on the planet, and he's one of your penalty killers. Of course, this is the same team who, didn't think that a certain young Russian winger was good enough to play for them either. So maybe that's more about the Canucks than it is about Bo Horvat. But
Or who are you talking about? Oh, Bud Colson.
yeah, I'll never miss an opportunity to rub that in Vancouver's face.
Okay, let's just go to the Islanders this year and let's see if Horvat is killing penalties there because I wonder if he has.
I believe I have heard that he was this year. I just know he wasn't a major part of it in Vancouver in the past.
Oh yeah, so yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He and Jean Gabriel Pajot are their top two PK guy forwards.
Yeah.
So he's stepped and Cooper must have seen that. Like they must have been they're scouting and they're watching and they're seeing and that's why he got picked for this team, which was a surprise to me that Bo Horvat got picked to the team. I was not expecting that at all. But man, he is a force when he gets going, and he's a good hockey player. They all are.
Interesting.
The forwards on this team, Kurt, are so good. Like, and this is like I wish Zach Hyman was on the team, and I think a strong argument can be made for Zach Hyman on this team.
Yep.
But I don't have an obvious player that I'd say, well, get rid of that guy for Zach Hyman. Like that doesn't pop in my. Before it was Anthony Cirelli, but even he's a really good hockey player. So they're all fantastic, utterly fantastic two-way hockey players. And Canada's blessed to have a forward lineup like this. It's just amazing.
Yeah, as I wrote in my column on Sunday, it's, on one hand, Zach Hyman absolutely should have been on this team. But in the next breath, the depth of forwards available to Team Canada is daunting. So it's, as much as I wish Zach was there and believe he should be there, I'm not as pissed about that as I am about Evan Bouchard.
No, I don't think there's really a defense from Team Canada on the Bouchard call.
No.
I just think it was whatever. Who knows what it was? Like there's certain people out there. Listen, actually, I don't know. There's tons of hockey fans who are serious hockey fans who know a ton about hockey who don't like Evan Bouchard's game, and obviously there was a couple of those guys on the selection committee. That's what it comes down to.
I think so
And
too.
fair enough, right? Like it's these views about Bouchard are deeply held, firmly held. They're not changing, no matter how many great plays he makes. They're not changing. Okay, Kurt, your number.
19,244. 19,244. Any guesses?
Well, I was gonna say it was a year, but we're not in the 19,244s ever. So I don't know.
You're warm, actually. 19,244. Macklin Celebrini is 19 years, 244 days old when he played his first Olympic game and scored his
Oh.
first Olympic goal.
And Kurt, my numbers are related to this too. I dug deeper. I complained on our last podcast about the selection of the Team Canada women. And since that complaint was lodged, Team Canada had by far its most humiliating game in the Olympic Games ever. They weren't just beaten by the American team; they were dismembered. They were obliterated. It was the grade A shots were 20-2, and Kurt giving them 2 grade A shots was a little bit generous. I'm gonna say it was awful, and when I looked at so I thought, let's look at I'm going to look at the roster construction because a lot was being made of it. And the Americans had gone with almost all of their top scoring forwards and almost all of their top scoring defensemen. There was a few exceptions, not many. If you weren't one of the top 20 scorers in the Professional Women's Hockey League, you weren't on that team. And instead of filling it in then with players like, who are really good PWHL players, but way down the scoring list, instead of doing that, Team America picked their best young female players.
Yeah.
They picked 6 collegians, 2 defensemen, 4 forwards. They're the best American players. And Macklin Celebrini was one of the best Canadian players tonight. And Nick Suzuki was one of the best Canadian players tonight. And Brandon Hagel was one of the best Canadian players. And Thomas Harley was one of the best Canadian players. These are all the younger players on the rosters. They were spectacular tonight in terms of their contribution. I don't know much about Nick Suzuki, but he was in on 7 he was in on 7 grade A shots. That's the second most of any Team Canada player in the game tonight. 7, and he didn't do it on the power play. Celebrini was in on 6. Hagel was in on 6. Harley was in on 7. So Team Canada, I've had some complaints about the roster selection. When they went to fill in the roster and bring in some new players, Hagel was on the team and Harley was on the team, but Celebrini and Suzuki weren't. So when they added some players, and Seth Jarvis, another young player, was added, they added young guys. They were open to doing that. Now, you could argue that the difference is that Canada's done a great job, still does a great job of developing the best young male hockey players on earth, and that for whatever reason, the Canadian women's system doesn't do that anymore. That the Americans have taken like a quantum leap in terms of development of female players, but I don't really think that argument holds. I think there were 2 or 3 young female players in Canada who were good enough to be on that team, who are probably more skilled than the faster skating than most of the, if not all of the players on the team, except for Rebecca Fast, who's super fast, and her name is Fast. And Canada also left off 4 of their top 8 scoring defensemen from the PWHL. They left off 2 of their top 10 scorers from the PWHL. I don't know what they were thinking, Kurt, but the more I looked into it, I just thought this team, it just struck me as what I would put down to, I'm guessing, just kind of cronyism. They went with people they knew best. And there's a tendency to do that, and that's what they did. They went with the people they knew best as opposed to picking the best players. So Canada team, there was that allegation was thrown at Doug Armstrong with the 2 St. Louis players on the team. We'll see. But in terms of the rest of the team, this is this is a spectacular team, and I'm so glad they took a chance on some of these younger guys.
Well, Celebrini was fun to watch tonight, and I noticed after the game as they were skating off, McKinnon walked over to him and patted him on the head and put his hand on his shoulder, and it's like, you love to see that, right? Because the older players love to see the young kids come in and succeed too, right? They like nothing better. To the person, ask them, they'll tell you that, right? So that was a pretty nice scene at the end of the game.
What did you think of Suzuki? Did you know much about his game?
Yeah, I've watched a fair number of Montreal games, so I've seen him a little bit. I thought he was well above average in today's game. I thought his contributions to grade A's is maybe overstating the actual impact that he had on the game, but I think he was quite good.
That could be.
Certainly brought energy to the game. Certainly belongs there. Like it doesn't look like you're just doing anybody a favor to have him on the team. But yeah, I thought he was quite good.
I was skeptical of the Hagel on the team last year, but he has won me over. He's a very hard-nosed hockey player.
He's a role player, right?
He is a good role player.
He is. Now, I think it's easy to debate that you could get pretty much the same thing out of Zach Hyman, and Hyman's a former 50-goal scorer,
That's true.
right?
That's
And
true.
I don't mean to denigrate Brandon Hagel, who gives every ounce of what he's got into every game, and I appreciate that about him as a fan of Team Canada. But if you want to debate on the forward lines, there's one for you.
All right. So Canada plays Switzerland tomorrow, and Team Canada women's team beat the Finns 5-0 today. Is that correct?
Yes, and I watched that game, and they played quite good against Finland. That was never really close, and I thought Canada played with what I would describe as way more urgency. I think
Yeah.
the American game was probably a bit of a wake-up call for them, and I didn't think they left much to doubt in that game.
Yeah. I'm rooting for them, and I haven't watched that game yet. I'm going to go back and watch it. I feel like,
They were
man,
the better team for like 54 minutes.
there was always this complaint about women's hockey in the past, Kurt, that there's only two teams that can win it, and then it's a bit of a sham tournament because of that, because none of the other countries can really compete for gold. Well, it just got worse. Like, unless Canada, like, it'll be interesting to see the next iteration of Team Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not ready to write off the Hockey Canada women's program yet.
Not,
It's-
no, not
They've had one bad game against the Americans at the Olympics, right?
well. No, leading up to it too, they were
Yeah,
getting,
but that's why I said they've had one bad game when it counted at the Olympics. So let's see.
yeah. Um,
I watched
when
another
Granny
Olympic
shot the
game today.
20-2, I'd be willing to bet a lot of money on the American team. Put it that way.
Well, Canada was also missing their best player and their captain too. So I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors, and it's also, let's call a spade a spade. It's also a game that they absolutely knew didn't matter at all in terms of qualifying. That's not one of the games they had to win
I'll
to
tell you
qualify.
what, it would be
right?
spectacular if Canada get what I hope for, because I don't think they can beat the Americans, but what I hope for is they give them a good game, that they don't embarrass themselves like they did last game, and that they figure out a way to tactically and mentally come together, because they were mentally beat in that game. They just were outraced to every single puck. So they've got to raise their battle level and get a little puck luck, get some great goaltending. I mean, I would give them a 1 in 20 shot of beating the Americans.
Yeah, I'm not quite prepared to strike up the public inquiry like you are. So let's see how it plays out.
I think the hope. I was thinking about this, Kurt. They came from there. There hasn't been a lot of higher level women's leagues overall, but now they have this professional women's hockey league, and I think it could save the Canadian women's game, in that it's not going to be controlled by the Hockey Canada bureaucracy. You will be on that. You will be on the team in the future based on how you do in PWHL games. Whether you rise to the top and you merit it and you show it, just like these guys that have to show it in NHL games, that they merit to be on the team. It's not just like, well, we kind of have a sense about you as a player and this or that. Now there's a league, best on best league, and I think that's going to spur on Canadian female players and parents and the whole system to push their daughters get their daughters into that league, succeed in that league. That's going to capture the imagination of Canadian hockey families, and I think that we will see, as the PWHA grows and as its presence in Canada grows, and I think that it would be great to have a team in Edmonton.
Just going to say that.
It's going to spur on female youth hockey in a big way, and the elite players will get better as they get more focused on that, and the selection process will get better as they realize we've got to pick our best PWHL players.
I can tell you in Vancouver, whenever there's a PWHL game here, it's the city buzzes. Like, people talk. It's a thing here. The fact that there's not a pro team in Edmonton yet is a little goofy to me.
Is there one in Vancouver?
No, but they play exhibition games here, right? And it's when they show up, like, that the Rogers Arena fills. Like, they draw really well.
I don't know why there aren't teams. Like, I just think it's such a missed business opportunity to pay. Like, for the two team owners, of the NHL teams. Like why wouldn't you have the female Oilers and the female Canucks?
Yeah,
Like
if you're the Oilers entertainment group, like if Daryl Cates wants another 25, 30 gates a year, hello.
maybe they don't. Maybe it's so packed. But there's not that many games right now in the PWHL. I don't think like they don't play that often. It's not like the NHL or even the WHL. Excuse me. So yeah, I'd like to see that. Kurt, I want to end up quickly with Frank Saravalli had a comment that kind of got my blood boiling a little bit. I was surprised that the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. And it was he was talking to on the Kevin Carius radio show here in Edmonton, and he was asked if the Edmonton Oilers can acquire a legit top 4 defenseman. And his comment was, quote, "Honestly, I don't see it. And I believe just in the conversations that I've had that the Oilers haven't really spent a ton of time looking at defense, that the thought process has been, we will improve organically when the time is right. These guys know how to flip the switch." And I think the danger in that is you just traded one of your best playoff performers, Brett Kulak, who raises his level consistently. And we've talked before how we both think a D-man should be the top trade target. And it isn't. It's, from all we've heard, it's the top 9. And I don't believe that's subterfuge. I think that's actually, that's what the insiders are hearing and that's what they're saying.
Me too.
But the idea that what got me going wasn't necessarily that. It was this idea that it's going to improve organically and you can flip the switch. And I think you can flip the switch on aggression, on hitting in the playoffs. You can amp up the hitting really quickly and you could become a team that gives as much as it takes in the playoffs. Because the Oilers did that last year. We saw it with our own eyes. Veteran players amp it up and start to hit and the Oilers get tough. Defense, I don't think you can. You can get a little better habits. You can focus on it, but defensive habits, they come over time. They're fundamentals. Defense is about fundamental play. And I just don't see it coming organically. And it also made me think like, oh, does this mean they're not going to bring in a new defense coach? They're not bringing in Coffey, and they just think things are going to get better. We've had 60 games now almost. Things aren't getting better. And I just thought if that's the attitude, I don't buy it. I think that it's not going to get better defensively enough for them to make a run at the Cup this year. They've got to take some action. And a new trade or a new coach or both, I think, are in order. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm with you on about half that. I think, like you, I think Frank is accurate that I do think that's the focus right now of the Oilers is a forward and not a defenseman. You and I agree that it probably should be a defenseman, but we're clearly not going to win that argument. So let's set that aside for a minute. If he means, or like it's not Frank means, I guess, if the organization means better organically, if they mean that Jake Wallman will play the way he did in the playoffs last year, if that's what they mean by organic, then okay, I buy that. And can Darnell Nurse play up to his potential? So again, if that's what they mean by organically they'll get better, okay. If both of those guys play a lot better over the stretch run, this team will be a lot better because those guys are capable of way more than they've shown this year. To be fair, the one guy, it's mostly been injury and coming back from injury. Nurse, as you and I have agreed, he's had really good runs this year, and then he's had really not good runs. So not knowing what they mean by organic, if they're talking about that, okay. On the coaching front, I'm sure Chris Knobloch isn't excited about bringing another guy in. But do you want to win or not? And I think that the general manager probably needs to sit down with the coach and say, look, pal, this ain't working. And so we tried your solution and we're here. So now we're going to try mine. And last I checked, Chris Knobloch isn't the general manager of this team and Stan Bowman is. And so if Paul Coffey, isn't the right guy to bring in, maybe there's a guy behind the bench in Italy right now that is. And, about half of the general managers in the league are in Italy right now, too. So, is
Are you
that
saying
organic? I don't know.
are you saying DeBoer as defense coach or head coach?
Another voice behind the bench.
Okay.
And DeBoer has a reputation for having very sound defensive teams, right?
Senior consultant.
Yeah. So
Head
so
coach
if
in waiting.
so if there's such an issue between Chris Knobloch and Paul Coffey, okay, fine. Pick another really good former NHL coach who has way more experience than Paul Coffey has. Well, that would be Pete DeBoer.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, Kurt.
Right?
I like it.
So
I like it.
I'm here to start rumors, if nothing else.
Stir in the pot. Stir in the pot. That's it makes sense. Like if there is some huge personality thing, like they just can't be in the same room anymore. I get that. Like maybe you have to respect that, but I can't respect not making a concerted effort. And organically, I don't see Spencer Stastny or Alec Regula suddenly becoming defensemen who are going to get it done in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I can see Emberson. I could see Emberson playing as well now as he's playing. Take that into the playoffs and be okay.
Yeah, he's taken a step forward this year.
Nurse and Wallman, I don't know. I think Wallman might be like a player who really responded to Paul Coffey and played his best hockey there. Nurse played really well under Coffey last year in the regular season and then had his usual playoff crash. So it's kind of hard to know with him what's going on. But anyway, if it's just status quo, I don't think that works. That's not, I'm not convinced that's going to work. And I think
I'm with you on status quo.
You need to change that. Status quo isn't like, if that's what they're trying to sell here is plan A. Yeah. Plan A sucks.
Yeah, you need to change something. It can be debatable what it is you change, but it's kind of, remember you and I at the start of the season, David, we had this conversation about Oilers goaltending. And we both agreed, the status quo probably isn't a good idea. And as it turned out, it wasn't.
Yeah, but let's see.
Yeah.
So you give things time, you give it a chance. Oh, the one other thing about the forwards. Okay, trading for a forward is, I just think it's old thinking almost. In the last 6 weeks, we've seen Kasperi Kapanen and Josh Samansky step up. Kasperi Kapanen has stepped up and been a good top six winger. Josh Samansky has stepped up and been a reasonable to good third line center.
Eye-openingly so, yes.
Why are you trading for another forward? Like, why is that your priority? You just got like two guys, and then you have two guys in the wings and Ike Howard and Quinn Hudson. Like, are you going to trade for a guy with term and then block Ike Howard and Quinn Hudson from the team next year and Viljami Marjala? Like, what are you doing? Haven't we been down this path before? And if it was an absolute need, I would say block away. But it's the absolute need is on defense.
You and I agree on the defense part. I disagree with you a little bit on the forward part. The window is open now, and one could say the window's been open for a while, right? So it really is. It's never been more vital to go for it than it is now. I'm way less concerned about blocking one of those young kids than I am about winning right now. And you can disagree with that, and that's fine, but that's the way I see it. Given that the bottom six has had the utter inability to score this year, then if you put Jordan Eberle on your third line, well, suddenly there's not so much pressure on the big guys to win it for you every night. So I do think there is a world where that makes sense. And I know there's all kind of cap implications. I'm just throwing a name out there of a guy who can score 20, 25 goals for you, right? So I think there's a reasonable case to be made for that. But I'll go back to the original point, which you and I agree with. Their problem this year hasn't been scoring enough goals. They've had to score so many goals because they haven't defended well. And that's why they need a defenseman and not a forward.
I want to just add one final comment about the defensive play. Craig McTavish was on Oilers Now talking to Bob Stauffer, and he made the point that the first thing he always looked at if they're having too many goals scored against is that third forward in the offensive zone. third forward, is the third forward doing his job? Is he high? Is he covering for the defenseman? And I haven't noticed, like, rush chances were a massive problem, I think, earlier in the year. I haven't noticed it as big a problem now, actually. So
I've seen numbers since that say that has improved. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that but it's an interesting thought, and it's certainly something you can do, but it's not the first nature for this team is to keep third man high. But listen, and the whole thing about blocking, that, like, you're right. My main argument is Kapanen and Samansky have developed, and really your need is on defense. It's not at forward, so that's the crux of my argument.
I hear you.
I'm okay actually if you trade one of Hudson or Howard to get that defenseman.
Right.
Like, I think that might have to happen, and I'm okay with that as well.
Me too.
So I'm not like all in on the young dudes. I'm just like, that was just another thing that was bugging me a bit. No. All right, Kurt.
You mentioned Josh Samansky. Let's talk about Germany for 90 seconds.
Oh, yeah, you wanted to bring that up. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
because I watched Germany and Denmark today, and Germany won the game 3-1. Leon Draisaitl scored 23 seconds into the game on a really nice deflection in front, and he set up a goal later in the game. He was very good. And the interesting thing, on all of the pre-scout lines that I saw out of Germany, Samansky was their third-line center. But he played left wing with Leon Draisaitl all night and got about the same, not quite, but pretty close to the same amount of ice time as well, and played a major role in the game. So Leon was, as you would expect he would be, was the best player on the ice, and Samansky looked like an NHL player in an Olympic tournament, which was very encouraging.
I wonder how Samansky ended up on his wing.
I'll give you 3 guesses.
Good for Leon, right? Good for
Rhymes
Leon.
with Schmeon, yes.
And listen, I was impressed with Josh Samansky. He's a responsible defensive player who gets in on the forecheck and can control the puck. Like, that's a third line player to me. And it's the kind of development that the teams that win the Stanley Cup they all of a sudden get halfway through the year a young guy who steps up and on their third line and starts to play a big role and comes through for the team. The Oilers need that, and they need to trust Josh Samansky with that. And it's kind of disheartening to hear he's going to be sent to the AHL again because of cap reasons, which I understand. You have cap reasons, but anyway, Kurt, any other final thoughts?
Well, my final thought will be on that point. Because Samansky was playing left wing with Leon Draisaitl, Germany was able to put Stützle on their second line. So suddenly, powerhouse Germany has 2 scoring lines.
Good for them.
Because Draisaitl was on one line and Stützle was on the other, and you'd figured they might put them together. And of course, they played together in the power play. But otherwise, it was Samansky with Draisaitl the whole way. So
Samansky had quite the reputation in his last year in Germany. He was kind of a big hockey star in Germany. He had 40 points in 50 games or something like that. He had a really good year offensively.
I'm sure Leon's dad had the opportunity to see them more than a couple times.
Yeah. And apparently, did not Draisaitl have something to do with convincing him to come to Edmonton? I think I've heard that as well.
As I recall, much like you might remember
Cahoon,
who also played today for Germany, and he was on their third line. So
yeah, he had been penciled in on the top line, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Kurt, let's leave it there. Thank you for talking.
My pleasure.
And thanks for listening. The smartest, sharpest, sanest hockey fans on earth, the faithful. And in the meantime, and in between time, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.